Good morning, boys and girls. We're going to continue in Unit 4, which we started a few weeks ago. Chapter 22 was on the theological virtues of faith, hope, and love. We talked a little bit about that. Specifically, we talked that love was the greatest of all of these three theological virtues. Virtues are those good behaviors that just become habits over time. God gave us the ability to just behave in a certain way over a certain period of time, and those behaviors just become habits. In chapter 23, these habits are called to discipleship. We use these habits, these virtues, in our discipleship, our call to discipleship, to be Jesus Christ on earth. And we talked last week about using these virtues either in the single life, in the married life, in the ordained life, or in the religious life. Today, we're going to actually talk about one of those, which is the married life. We're going to talk about the sacrament of matrimony. This chapter sometimes sparks a little bit of controversy in the church's take on matrimony and the worldly take on matrimony, and divorce and single parenting and all that stuff tends to rise up as questions that fifth graders might tend to have. So my goal this chapter is not to tell you what mom or dad who are divorced, or I've only got a mom or I've only got a dad. It's not my job to tell people what they did was right or wrong. It is my job to instruct on the Catholic faith, on what the church teaches. And I think this will make more sense as we move out throughout this week. But of course, if you have any questions or concerns, please come to office hours, come to the office time, and just ask. I could go on for a long time about this. It's a very, very, very big and long and confusing topic that really does get condensed only into a few pages. So if you want to hear more, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that. But let's go ahead and start. I'm actually going to start on page 272. Where we're going to read how marriage was part of God's plan from the very beginning. And that's kind of where we're going to pick it up, in that from the very beginning of time with Adam and Eve, marriage was part of his plan. Under we believe, where it says, God created humans to love and to be loved. Imagine Adam and Eve in the garden. That's the only thing they could do is love. Evil and sin and hatred had not yet entered the world. Let's continue. He made us in his image and likeness. Because of this, we are able to think, to make choices, and to love. There's that theological virtue again. When God created the first humans, he made them male and female. God created them to be different but equal. And he found this very good. There's that good word that we've talked about. Remember in October, we talked about Jesus and God never referred to anything as perfect or great or awesome. He called everything good. That's in Genesis chapter 1. The differences between girls and boys, women and men are good. These differences are part of God's plan. Even though we are different, we are equal. We share the same human dignity that comes from being made in God's image. And I'm going to highlight that. In a previous chapter, we learned what human dignity was. Human dignity is the fact that every single person was born from God, and God only makes things that are good. So we all share in human dignity, the right to be treated equally. Let's continue reading. God told the first man and women to be fertile and multiply. In this way, God blessed the first man and woman to bring a new life into the world. He wanted them to have children and to share in his plan for creating the human family. Marriage was also part of this plan. That is why a man leaves his father and mother and clings to his wife, and the two of them become one body. And we can kind of have a conversation about that if you'd like to. When men and women get married, typically they leave their home that they were born into, the woman's home and the man's home, and they become one body. Not necessarily one human body, but one unit, one group, one gathering, one couple. That's what that reference is to in this. In that next paragraph, the importance of matrimony. We learn in the Old Testament that marriage was part of God's plan from the very beginning. We learn in the New Testament that Jesus showed the importance of marriage by attending a wedding at Cana and helping the couple who had been married. Since that time, marriage has been an effective sign of Jesus's love and presence. Let's go ahead and highlight that. Remembering an effective sign is something that actually happens. So what we're going to learn about is in the sacrament of matrimony, marriage actually happens. The two become one. The two individual single human beings become one couple. That's an effective sign of Jesus's love and presence. Jesus's love is made present through the love of a husband and wife. This is what the church celebrates in the sacrament of matrimony. In the sacrament of matrimony, a man and a woman become husband and wife. Let's highlight that. They promise to be faithful to each other for the rest of their lives. In this sacrament, a man and a woman are united as loving partners. As a married couple, they promise to love and be true to each other always, lovingly accept their children as a gift from God, not preventing conception by unacceptable means, are strengthened by God's grace to live out their promises to Christ and to each other. Those are three things that a married couple will do. With members of the church community present, their love is blessed and strengthened by the grace of this sacrament. By this grace, Christ is with the couple as they love and work. Christ shares his love with them so that they can love and forgive each other. Christ supports and strengthens them to live as loyal and trustworthy partners. If you look over on the next page, there's no reading. However, this is a stained glass window entitled The Wedding at Cana. The bottom left-hand corner, you can see that. This is in the Notre Dame de Quebec in Canada. This is a church up in Canada. And what we can see is we can see behind the table, there's a couple who just got married. In front of the table, we've got Jesus. And if you look at the pitcher that the woman is pouring, we notice that it is coming out as water, but it is going into that pitcher as wine. One of the first miracle that Jesus performed as part of his ministry was turning water into wine at the celebration of the wedding at Cana. Jesus believed that matrimony was sacred and that it should be celebrated, and that the people attending that celebration should have wine to keep them entertained. So this is a very beautiful representation of this sacrament being important, that this sacrament being of matrimony, and that God blessing this union between man and women as holy with Jesus's presence and support. Tomorrow, we're going to take a look at the next page, what exactly happens before a couple gets married. And then as the week progresses, we'll actually see a wedding take place in the book. I've got some pictures and some videos of some weddings that I'd like to show you, and I think it should be a very interesting chapter. All right, I'll talk to you later.